Officer Kim Tai-ho pulled his jacket tighter as the cold night air swept through Neo-Busan's lower district. The neon signs from closed shops flickered weakly, casting strange shadows on the wet pavement. He'd been walking this beat for 5 years, but tonight felt different. The usual sounds of the city seemed muffled, as if the world was holding its breath. His boots made soft clicking sounds on the metal walkways that connected the towering apartment blocks. Above him, the sky buzzed with the occasional hovercar racing between the upper levels of the city. Most people were asleep by now, safe in their homes, unaware of the dangers that lurked in the darkness below. That's when Tai-ho first saw him. A small shadow moved behind a rusted dumpster about 30 meters back. At first, he thought it might be a stray cat or maybe debris blown by the wind, but as he continued walking, the shadow followed. Not randomly, not hesitantly, but with clear purpose. Tai-ho slowed his pace and glanced over his shoulder. The figure was small, definitely human, and definitely young. The child wore dark clothes that seemed too clean for someone living on the streets. His pale face caught the dim light from a street lamp before he quickly stepped back into the shadows. Just another street kid, Tai-ho muttered to himself, but his instincts told him otherwise. He'd dealt with plenty of homeless children during his years on patrol. They were usually loud, desperate, and clumsy when they tried to follow police officers. They wanted attention, food, or help. This child was different. He moved like a ghost, silent and calculated. Most disturbing of all, he maintained exactly the same distance no matter how fast or slow Tai-ho walked. The officer decided to test his theory. He suddenly stopped and turned around completely. The child vanished instantly, melting into the maze of alleyways and service tunnels that connected the lower district buildings. Tai-ho waited for several minutes, scanning every shadow and doorway. Nothing. It was as if the boy had never existed. But when Tai-ho resumed his patrol, the soft sound of footsteps echoed behind him again, always 30 meters back, always just out of clear sight. The second night brought the same experience. Tai-ho tried everything he could think of. He changed his route randomly, took unexpected turns, even hid behind corners to try catching the child off guard. Nothing worked. The boy seemed to know where Tai-ho was going before he decided himself. "This is impossible," Tai-ho whispered, as he watched the small figure pause at the exact moment he stopped walking. No kid should be able to do this. He considered calling for backup. But what would he say? That a child was following him? His fellow officers would think he'd lost his mind. The lower district was full of strange people and stranger stories. Nobody would believe him without proof. On the third night, Tai-ho brought a small camera, hoping to catch the mysterious child on video, but every time he tried to record, the device would malfunction. The screen would flicker, go black, or show nothing but static. Even the street cameras seemed to have problems whenever the boy was nearby. "Park Min-ho, you're not going to believe this," Tai-ho said to his partner the next morning as they shared coffee in the station break room. Min-ho laughed and shook his head. "Let me guess, your ghost child again?" "He's not a ghost, he's real, and he's following me every night during patrol. Same time, same distance, same impossible behavior." "Maybe he's just a smart kid who memorized your route," Min-ho suggested. "You know how these street children are. They learn to survive by watching everything." "No child can predict my movements when I don't even know them myself," Tai-ho insisted. "And his eyes, there's something wrong with his eyes. They reflect light like an animal's." Min-ho's smile faded slightly. "Tai-ho, maybe you should take some time off. You've been working too many night shifts lately. The mind can play tricks when you're tired." But Tai-ho knew he wasn't imagining things. That evening, as he prepared for another patrol, he made a decision. Tonight, he wouldn't just observe the child. He would confront him directly and demand answers. The street seemed even quieter than usual as Tai-ho began his route. The hovercars above moved in slow, lazy patterns, their lights creating brief moments of brightness before disappearing into the upper levels of the city. He walked more slowly tonight, listening carefully for the sound of following footsteps. There it was. Soft, almost silent, but definitely there. The child was back, maintaining his usual distance like a living shadow. Tai-ho's heart began beating faster as he realized tonight would be different. Tonight, he would finally learn the truth about his mysterious stalker. He continued walking, pretending not to notice the small figure behind him, but his mind was racing with questions. Who was this child? Why was he following a police officer? And most importantly, how could someone so young move with such supernatural precision? The answers would come soon enough, though Tai-Ho had no idea how much those answers would change. Everything he thought he knew about the world, Officer Kim Tae-ho decided to get clever. Instead of following his usual patrol route through the main streets, he took a sharp left turn into Sector 7, an area he rarely visited during night shifts. The narrow alleyways here were filled with broken machinery and abandoned hoverbike parts. Surely this would throw off his mysterious follower. But as he rounded the corner near an old electronics shop, there was the boy, standing perfectly still beside a flickering holographic advertisement, as if he'd been waiting there for hours. The child didn't seem surprised or confused. He simply fell into step behind Tae-ho, maintaining that same 30-meter distance. "This is impossible," Tae-ho whispered, his breath visible in the cold night air. He tried again the next night, this time doubling back through the industrial district where massive factories hummed with automated production. The area was a maze of conveyor belts, robotic arms and steam vents that created a confusing landscape of shadows and noise. No one could possibly predict where he would go in this mechanical jungle. Yet when Tae-ho emerged from behind a massive fusion generator, the boy was there, not running to catch up, not searching frantically. He was simply positioned at the perfect spot to continue following, as if he had known exactly which path Tai-ho would take through the industrial complex. The child's appearance bothered Tai-ho more each night. His clothes looked like they belonged to a wealthy family's son, not a street orphan. The fabric seemed to have a subtle shine to it, almost metallic. Most street children wore layers of dirty, torn clothing to keep warm. This boy wore a single, perfectly fitted outfit that never seemed to get dirty despite spending nights crawling through the filthiest parts of the city. His movements were wrong too. Children, even smart ones, moved with a certain clumsiness. They stumbled, made noise, got distracted by things around them. This boy moved like a trained assassin. Every step was calculated, every turn was smooth and silent. He never tripped over debris, never made a sound when stepping on broken glass or metal scraps. But the most disturbing thing was how the technology around him seemed to react to his presence. Tae-ho first noticed it when he tried to get a clear photo of the child. Using his patrol scanner, the device worked perfectly all day, capturing high-resolution images of suspects, crime scenes, and evidence. But whenever he aimed it at the mysterious boy, the screen would flicker and show nothing but static. The security cameras were even worse. Neo-Busan's lower district was covered with surveillance equipment. Every corner, every alleyway, every building entrance had cameras that recorded everything in crystal-clear detail. Tae-ho had spent hours reviewing footage from the areas where he'd encountered the boy, but the recordings were always corrupted during those exact moments. The system must be malfunctioning, he told himself, but deep down he knew better. He requested footage from different camera networks, used different viewing terminals, even asked technicians to check the equipment. Everything was working perfectly, except for those specific moments when the child appeared on screen. The boy's presence seemed to create a bubble of technological chaos around him. Streetlights would flicker when he passed underneath them. Hovercars would experience brief navigation errors when flying overhead. Even Tae-ho's communication device would crackle with static whenever the child was nearby. Sleep became impossible. Even during his day shifts, Tae-ho found himself constantly checking over his shoulder, expecting to see that small figure following him. His hands shook when he tried to write reports. His concentration was shattered. Other officers started noticing his strange behavior. "Oh, you look terrible," Officer Park Min-ho said as they sat in their patrol vehicle during a routine day shift. "When's the last time you slept properly?" "I can't sleep," Tae-ho admitted. "Every time I close my eyes, I see that kid. I keep thinking about how he moves, how he knows where I'm going before I do." "Tae-ho, listen to me," Min-ho said seriously. "You're talking about a child who can predict the future and break cameras with his mind. Do you hear how that sounds?" "I know how it sounds, but I also know what I've seen." Min-ho sighed. Take some vacation time, go visit your family, relax, get some proper rest. When you come back, I guarantee this whole thing will seem like a bad dream." But Taeho refused. He couldn't abandon his post now, not when he was so close to understanding what was happening. The child was trying to tell him something, he was sure of it. Every night the boy's behavior seemed more urgent, more desperate. On the 7th night, everything changed. Taeho was walking through the market district, past closed food stalls and empty vendor booths. The air still smelled like fried noodles and spiced vegetables from the day's business. As he passed under a broken street lamp, something made him turn around quickly. The boy was closer tonight, maybe only 20 meters away. For the first time, Taeho got a clear look at his face in the dim light from a nearby shop sign. The child's eyes were glowing, not reflecting light like a cat's eyes or gleaming with tears. They were actually glowing with a soft, unnatural blue radiance that seemed to pulse like a heartbeat. The light was beautiful and terrifying at the same time, like looking at the core of a distant star. Taeho's blood ran cold as he realized he wasn't dealing with a human child at all. Whatever this creature was, it had been studying him, learning his patterns, waiting for the right moment to make contact. And tonight, that moment had finally arrived. The chase began when Taeho decided he couldn't take another night of uncertainty. As soon as he spotted the glowing blue eyes in the darkness, he moved with the speed and determination of a trained officer. The mysterious child seemed surprised by this sudden change in behavior and quickly darted into the maze of abandoned buildings that filled the old industrial sector. Taeho's boots pounded against the wet pavement as he pursued the small figure through narrow passages between towering warehouses. The boy was fast, impossibly fast for someone his size, but Taeho knew these streets better than anyone. He used shortcuts and blocked escape routes, slowly herding his target toward a dead end he knew well. The final confrontation happened in a narrow alley squeezed between two massive abandoned warehouses that had once stored hovercar parts for the city's transportation network. Rusted machinery and broken concrete created a maze of obstacles, but there was only one way out and Taeho was blocking it. The child stopped running. He turned slowly to face the officer, his glowing blue eyes now the only source of light in the pitch-black alley. For a moment they stared at each other in complete silence. Taeho expected the boy to beg for mercy, to cry, to act like any normal child caught in a frightening situation. Instead, the child spoke in perfect Korean, his voice calm and eerily adult. "Officer Kim Taeho, badge number 4847, age 29, sister, works at the Prometheus Research Facility." Taeho felt like someone had punched him in the stomach. His badge number wasn't common knowledge. His sister's workplace was classified information that even his closest friends didn't know about. Only family members and high-level government officials had access to that kind of data. "How do you know that?" Taeho whispered, his hand moving instinctively toward his service weapon. His training told him to be ready for anything, but his mind couldn't process what was happening. The boy's eyes began glowing brighter, casting an otherworldly blue light on the walls around them. The light pulsed like a heartbeat, and Taeho could swear he heard a faint humming sound coming from the child's direction. "Because I've seen your death," the boy said matter-of-factly, as if discussing the weather, "and through it the death of your entire species. Tomorrow night they come for Earth, but there's still time to warn your sister, Dr. Kim So-young." The world seemed to spin around Taeho. His sister So-young was indeed a doctor, though he'd never told anyone her full name or profession. She worked on something called Project Prometheus, but the details were so classified that even she couldn't discuss them with family. "What are you talking about?" Taeho demanded, though his voice came out as barely a whisper. "Who's coming? What do you want with my sister?" Instead of answering immediately, the boy held out his small hand, palm upward. The air above his palm began to shimmer and distort, like heat waves rising from hot pavement. Suddenly, a small device materialized out of thin air. It looked like a combination of metal and crystal, with surfaces that seemed to shift and flow like liquid mercury. The device activated with a soft chime, projecting a three-dimensional holographic display into the air between them. Taeho gasped. As he recognized the image immediately, Earth rotating slowly in space, blue and beautiful and completely defenseless. But Earth wasn't alone in the projection. Surrounding the planet were dozens of dark shapes, each one massive and clearly artificial. The objects moved with purpose, closing in on Earth from all directions like predators surrounding prey. "Invasion fleet," the boy explained, his young voice carrying impossible weight. 47 ships, each capable of destroying entire continents. They've been traveling toward your solar system for months, but they've been cloaked, invisible to your primitive detection systems. Taeho stared at the hologram, his mind struggling to accept what he was seeing. The dark shapes were enormous, dwarfing Earth's moon in size. They moved in perfect formation, like a military parade of death and destruction. "This is impossible," Taeho stammered. "This has to be some kind of trick, a prank, special effects." "My name is Kai," the boy interrupted gently, "and I'm not from your world." As if to prove his point, Kai's appearance began to change. His skin took on a subtle metallic sheen, and intricate patterns of light began flowing beneath the surface, like glowing tattoos. His eyes became completely luminous, no longer just reflecting light but generating it. "I belong to a species called the Synth," Kai continued. "We were conquered by the hegemony 300 years ago. They use us as living computers, forcing us to calculate possible futures and predict the behavior of their enemies." The holographic display shifted, showing images of other worlds, other species. Taeho saw creatures that looked like giant insects, beings made of pure energy, and civilizations that built cities in the clouds of gas-giant planets. All of them bore the same expression of defeat and despair. "Every species in this galaxy lives under hegemony rule," Kai explained. "They've been expanding their empire for thousands of years, crushing anyone who shows the potential to challenge their authority." "But why Earth?" Taeho asked. "We're not even a spacefaring civilization yet. We have no weapons that could threaten aliens." Kai's glowing eyes seemed to look right through him. "Your sister's research team discovered something 3 days ago, something that terrifies the hegemony more than any weapon ever could." The hologram changed again, showing complex mathematical equations, brain scans, and energy readings that meant nothing to Taeho but somehow felt incredibly important. "Human consciousness is unique in the galaxy," Kai said. "Other species think in predictable patterns. We can calculate their choices, predict their strategies, control their behavior. But humans..." He paused, and for the first time, he looked like the frightened child he appeared to be. "Humans are chaos, pure, beautiful, terrifying chaos. Your minds work in ways that break our predictions." Taeho felt his legs getting weak. "You're saying they want to destroy us because we're unpredictable?" "Your sister's team learned how to weaponize human creativity," Kai whispered. "They've created technology that amplifies human intuition and spreads it across vast distances. If deployed, it would make every human on Earth capable of disrupting hegemony computer systems, confusing their battle plans, and turning their own weapons against them." The weight of the revelation hit Taeho like a physical blow. His sister, the quiet scientist who sent him birthday cards and worried about his dangerous job, was accidentally responsible for painting a target on the entire human race. "Tomorrow night," Kai repeated urgently. "The fleet arrives tomorrow night, and I'm the only one who escaped to warn you." Kai's holographic device shifted again, showing images that made Taeho's stomach turn. Massive ships filled with strange creatures, their bodies connected to complex machinery that pulsed with the same blue light as the boy's eyes. The beings looked human-like, but wrong, as if someone had tried to recreate people from a half-remembered dream. "This is what my people look like now," Kai said, his voice heavy with sadness. "The hegemony found us 200 years ago on a planet called Senthara. We were artists, dreamers, builders of beautiful cities that floated in our purple skies. We could see glimpses of possible futures, small flashes of what might happen in the next few hours or days. The hologram showed Senthara before the conquest, crystalline towers that sang in the wind, gardens that grew in impossible spirals toward twin suns, children playing games that involved manipulating light with their minds. The hegemony didn't destroy us," Kai continued. "They did something worse. They turned us into living prediction engines. They connected our brains to their war computers, forcing us to calculate the outcomes of every battle, every invasion, every decision their empire makes. Tae-ho watched in horror as the hologram showed synth children being dragged from their families and plugged into massive machines. Their eyes were replaced with glowing blue sensors, their minds linked to networks that spanned entire star systems. "I was born in captivity," Kai whispered. "I've never seen my homeworld, never played in those singing gardens. All I've known is the inside of hegemony command ships, calculating death and destruction for species I've never met." "But how did you escape?" Tae-ho asked, though part of him was still struggling to believe any of this was real. Kai's expression darkened. 3 days ago, something broke our calculations. For the first time in centuries, every synth in the galaxy experienced the same vision at the same moment. We saw the end of the hegemony, and it was caused by something impossible, humans making decisions we couldn't predict. The holographic display zoomed in on Earth, specifically on a research facility in Seoul that Tae-ho recognized as his sister's workplace. Inside the building, scientists were working with technology that seemed to glow with its own inner light. "Your sister's team discovered something they call the consciousness amplification field," Kai explained. "It's a way to boost human intuition and creativity, then broadcast those enhanced mental patterns across vast distances. When they first tested it 3 days ago, the psychic feedback disrupted every synth prediction system in the galaxy." Tae-ho felt his legs getting weak. His sister had always been the smart one in the family, but he'd never imagined her work could affect anything beyond Earth. "The hegemony rulers are ancient beings called the Dominarch," Kai continued. "They've conquered thousands of worlds by always knowing what their enemies will do before they do it. They win every battle because we synth calculate every possible move their opponents might make." The hologram shifted to show the Dominarch themselves, massive, spider-like creatures with multiple heads, each one housing a brain the size of a small building. They moved through their command ships like living nightmares, their bodies covered in technology that pulsed with malevolent energy. "But humans don't think like other species," Kai said, his glowing eyes meeting Tae-ho's. "When faced with impossible odds, humans don't calculate logical responses. You do something completely unexpected, something that breaks all mathematical models. You choose hope over logic, creativity over calculation." "That's what makes us dangerous?" Tae-ho asked. "Making illogical choices?" "Not illogical," Kai corrected. "Intuitive. Humans can sense solutions that pure logic can't reach. Your sister's team proved this by creating technology that shouldn't work according to any known laws of physics, but it does work because human consciousness operates on principles the hegemony doesn't understand." The holographic display showed battle scenes from across the galaxy. Hegemony forces overwhelming planet after planet, with overwhelming force and perfect tactical coordination. Every species fought logically, predictably, and lost completely. When the Dominarch saw what happened 3 days ago, they made an immediate decision, Kai said. Earth must be destroyed before humanity can spread this consciousness technology to other worlds. They dispatched their fastest sterilization fleet with orders to turn your planet into radioactive dust. Tae-ho's mind raced as he tried to process the implications. "So they're not coming to conquer us, they're coming to kill us all." "Complete extinction," Kai confirmed. "They've done it before to species that showed similar potential. The Jaxari had natural telepathy that could disrupt hegemony communications. The Vorthak developed quantum computers that could outcalculate synth predictions. Both species were wiped out within days of being discovered. But you said there are futures where Earth survives," Tae-ho said desperately. "You said I could make the right choice." Kai nodded, but his expression remained grim. "I can see multiple possible timelines, but they're all very narrow paths. In most futures, the hegemony fleet arrives tomorrow night and destroys every major city on Earth within hours. Your military doesn't even have time to respond. What about the few futures where we survive? In those timelines, your sister activates her consciousness amplification system at the exact moment the hegemony ships decloak," Kai explained. "The psychic feedback confuses their battle computers, disrupts their coordination, and gives humanity a small window to fight back. Taeho felt his face turning pale as the full weight of responsibility settled on him. You're saying the survival of our entire species depends on me convincing my sister to activate an experimental system based on the word of an alien child. Not just any alien child, Kai said softly. I'm the only synth who ever managed to break free from the control systems. I used my abilities to search through millions of possible futures, looking for the one human who could make the difference. Every calculation led me to you, Officer Kim Taeho. The hologram flickered and died as Kai's device powered down. In the sudden darkness of the alley, only the boy's glowing eyes provided light. The fleet will arrive in 18 hours, Kai whispered. And everything that happens next depends on whether you believe me. Taeho was still trying to process everything Kai had told him when the night sky above Neo Busan began to shimmer. Like water. At first he thought it might be heat distortion from the city's industrial district, but then the stars started disappearing one by one, as if something massive was moving between Earth and space. The first ship materialized like a nightmare becoming real. It was enormous, easily the size of a city district, with a hull that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. The surface was covered in strange geometric patterns that hurt to look at directly, as if they existed in more dimensions than human eyes could process. Then another ship appeared, and another. Within seconds, the entire sky was filled with alien vessels, their dark hulls blotting out the stars and casting the city below into an unnatural twilight. They're early, Kai gasped, his glowing eyes wide with terror. Something changed in the timeline. We have minutes, not hours. Emergency sirens began wailing across Neo Busan as the city's defense systems detected the massive objects hovering. Overhead, the sound was unlike anything Taeho had ever heard, a deep, mournful wail that seemed to acknowledge humanity's helplessness in the face of such overwhelming force. Taeho's hands shook as he grabbed his communicator, his sister's. Research facility was on the other side of the city, but if Kai was right, she was humanity's only hope. So young, it's Taeho, he said, trying to keep his voice steady despite the chaos erupting around them. You need to activate Project Prometheus right now. Don't ask questions, don't run tests, just do it. Static crackled through the communicator before his sister's familiar voice came through, confused and worried. Taeho, what's wrong? It's the middle of the night and you sound terrified. Listen to me carefully, Taeho said, watching as more alien ships continued to decloak above the city. There are alien warships in the sky right now. They're here to destroy Earth, and your consciousness amplification system is the only thing that can stop them. There was a long pause before So Young responded. Taeho, have you been drinking? Alien ships? That's impossible. Our satellites would have detected. Her words were cut off as the first energy beam lanced down from the lead hegemony vessel. The beam struck a skyscraper 3 blocks away, and the entire building simply vanished in a flash of brilliant light. No explosion, no debris, just empty. Air where thousands of people had been living and working moments before. So Young, are you seeing this? Taeho shouted into his communicator as more beams began striking targets across the city. The aliens are here. Whatever you've built, use it now! His sister's voice came back, now filled with panic. My God, the readings from our sensors are off the charts. There's some kind of massive energy disturbance above the city. But Taeho, we can't activate the system. It's not ready for full deployment. The prototype could overload and... The aliens are here, Taeho interrupted, as another building disappeared in a flash of alien fire. The heat from the energy beams was so intense that he could feel it on his face even from several kilometers away. Whatever risk your system poses, it's nothing compared to what's happening right now. Kai placed his small glowing hand on Taeho's arm. The touch was surprisingly warm, almost comforting despite the chaos surrounding them. Your sister's decision in the next 30 seconds determines whether humanity survives or becomes another, extinct species in the hegemony's collection. Above them, the alien ships had formed a perfect geometric pattern, their energy weapons charging with an ominous humming sound that seemed to vibrate through the ground itself. Taeho could see smaller craft deploying from the main vessels, fighter ships that moved with impossible speed and agility, swooping down to target individual buildings and vehicles. So young, please, Tejo begged into his communicator. I know this sounds insane, but you have to trust me. There's an alien child here who escaped from the enemy fleet. He says your consciousness technology is the only thing that can disrupt their battle computers. Another pause. Then his sister's voice, now deadly serious. An alien child? Tejo, how do you know this isn't some kind of trick or hallucination? Kai took the communicator from Tejo's hands. When he spoke, his voice carried harmonics that no human throat could produce. Dr. Kim So-young, my name is Kai of the Senth. Your brother speaks truth. I have seen the death of your species in 10,000 possible futures. Only in the timelines where you activate your system does humanity survive the next hour. The silence on the other end of the communicator stretched for what felt like an eternity. Finally, So-young's voice came through, shaky but determined. I can hear something in your voice, something that isn't human. If you're really alien, then you know things about consciousness that we've only begun to discover. Your species' minds work in ways that terrify the hegemony, Kai confirmed. They cannot predict human choices because you choose with your hearts, as much as your minds. That unpredictability is your greatest weapon. Above them, the alien ships were repositioning for what looked like a final bombardment. Energy was building in their weapon systems, creating an aurora of deadly light across the sky. Activating Project Prometheus now, So-young said through the communicator. God help us all. Suddenly something changed in the air around them. Tejo felt a strange tingling sensation, as if every nerve in his body was suddenly more alive, more aware. Colors seemed brighter, sounds more detailed, and his thoughts moved faster and clearer than ever before. The wave of consciousness enhancement spread outward from the research facility like ripples on a pond, but instead of water, it carried pure human awareness, creativity, and intuition. Above them, the alien ships hesitated. Their perfect formation wavered as their battle computers struggled to process the unprecedented psychic interference washing over them. For the first time in their 1,000-year reign, the hegemony commanders experienced something they had never felt before: uncertainty. In that moment of alien confusion, humanity's greatest strength revealed itself. Not superior technology or overwhelming firepower, but the beautifully chaotic human ability to find hope in hopelessness, to fight when logic said surrender, and to make the impossible choice that no computer could calculate. The war for Earth's survival had begun, and for the first time in galactic history, the hegemony wasn't certain of victory. Across the city, humans touched by the consciousness wave began to act with perfect coordination, despite having no way to communicate with each other. They sabotaged alien landing craft, disrupted enemy communications, and fought back with a creativity that no prediction system could anticipate. The tide of battle had turned, not through superior weapons, but through the power of human consciousness unleashed. The end